This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on overall analysis of President's visit to Cyprus, Bulgaria and the Czech Republic. The participants are Neelam D. Sabarwal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
The President visited Cyprus, Bulgaria and the Czech Republic. The President's 3 Central European countries visit also saw the signing of several MOUs across different areas like energy, environment, tourism, defense, trade and investment. A total of 12 MOUs have been signed during the visit. Ambassador Sabarwal, when you see the President's visit to these Central European countries, how important is India's outreach to Central Europe?
The special thing with all these 3 countries is that they have been our traditional friends belonging to very different era, and that friendship has continued. So these were the countries, as I said, Cyprus was part of the Asian region and part of the non-aligned movement, and it was very important. Both the Czech Republic and its former incarnation as Czechoslovakia and Bulgaria as members of the Warsaw Pact and then seen geographically as Eastern Europe were very friendly, because the whole socialist bloc, as you know, India's policies were very sensitive and sympathetic to the socialist bloc. So these were important, but yes, in recent years certainly they have not occupied as much an important place, and so it is, I think, a very welcome initiative by the Government of India to send the President of India as the highest level state visit as an outreach to these countries whom we perhaps may have not had very much time for in the last few years.
Ambassador Sabarwal, we also see that on the first leg of his visit, the President in Cyprus, he addressed the Cyprus House of Representatives. He also gave a lecture at the University of Cyprus and interacted with the Indian diaspora. How do you explain this outreach in Cyprus, and would you explain to our listeners what is India's bilateral relation and interest with Cyprus?
As I said a minute ago, I think India's relations with Cyprus, though may not be widely known, but they have always been very special, very close and warm politically. The friendship goes back to the relationship between the founding fathers on the Indian side and the founding father of the Republic of Cyprus, Archbishop Makarios, on whose name you would be familiar and most residents of Delhi would be familiar, runs across a very central part of Delhi in the Golf Links areas. And of course he was himself very influenced by Mahatma Gandhi and had a very high regard personally for Pandit Nehru, who in fact was mainly responsible for bringing in Cyprus into the non-aligned movement. Now, the successful visit that you've referred to is very important because Cyprus has politically always supported India on issues of our national concern, our national interest. In fact, it was probably one of the first countries to speak out in support of our candidature to the UN Security Council as a permanent member, and absolutely the first country to speak as a member of the NSG. They are a pretty small country, but they're members of a 42-member grouping, and they supported. And on terrorism and all issues which have Kashmir, they had the courage, even as a very small country. And what will be very interesting perhaps for our listeners to know that at a time when Cyprus was preparing to make this transition to join the European Union, then European Union by and large takes these positions as a grouping. And it was at that time also, at the time of India's nuclear test, where obviously the Union and most Western powers had taken a very hard view on India's decision to go nuclear. Cyprus stood aside and took an independent position, that they understood our compulsions and they also knew and believed that our objectives were peaceful uses of the nuclear energy. And economic, financially too also today, I think. They offer many possibilities, but they need to be explored fully.
Ambassador Sabarwal, if we look at India's interaction with the Czech Republic, that has been a little more as we explore the Central European countries. We also see that there was a business forum in the Czech Republic and over 60 Indian companies travelled for the event and an equal number of Czech companies participated in the event. What are the business scope or opportunities that India and Czechoslovakia can look at each other and increase a business trade relationship between the two nations?
With the Czech Republic, as indeed it was with the Czechoslovakia earlier, there has always been a good sort of strong basis on economic collaboration, and more so in recent years as they have developed a more sophisticated and an advanced technological base in their economy. especially in the high-tech and in the defense sector. Defense, traditionally, we have had a good cooperation with them, even when they were part of the Warsaw Pact earlier in terms of defense collaboration, as also with Bulgaria. But the Czechs have, like for instance, Skoda Auto, I believe, I understand from the reports that I've seen, have already committed that they will be investing $1 billion for this Make in India initiative by the government of India. And they're also looking for developing some special cluster, I think, in Bangalore. So they are strong in manufacturing, they're strong in the defense sector. We are interested in getting them to come and manufacture here for our domestic consumption as also for third country exports. And these are, of course, the very advanced sectors. So in short, actually today, with India's very robust economic growth and the strong capabilities, technical and industrial capabilities, there are certainly very good possibilities in India's smart cities, digital India and Make in India initiatives. And we've seen good MOUs already. I think, as you mentioned at the outset, I think that's why there have been close to 5 MOUs that have been signed between the two countries during the President's visit.
Ambassador Sabharwal, we see that the President had an interaction with Indologists at the Charles University in Prague. And incidentally, this university also had a Sanskrit chair back in 1850. There was also a lot of emphasis on promoting yoga and Ayurveda in the Czech Republic. When you see this aspect of the Indian foreign policy, which is the softer side of Indian policy, that we are trying to promote India's image abroad by introducing things or concepts which are very Indian in their origin, yoga, Ayurveda, Sanskrit, how successful do you think is an outreach in an aspect which is soft power diplomacy at the end of the day?
It has its own place. I think the soft power does not replace the hard power or the real interests that countries have between them to talk about. But soft power has, I agree with you, it plays a very useful role. And Czech Republic, these are of course newer things like yoga or Ayurveda and so on, which are of course now gaining wide currency, I think, all across the world. But it is very significant that the Charles University in the Czech Republic, actually I understand, is probably the oldest center of Indology or study of India, the Sanskrit, the classic languages. And having a chair, I think this is something which is very, very special. Rest of Europe also does, but that definitely also contributes to a better understanding between peoples. It helps in building bridges. And certainly it fosters the study and dissemination of Indian philosophy, of India's own civilizational values and civilizational knowledge.
Ambassador Sabharwal, we also saw one story from the Czech Republic which actually got, I think, a lot of coverage back home. And that was at the Indian community reception which the President attended. The Czech band actually, they sang a song from Kishore Kumar and Mohammad Rafi. Again, continuing the same thing, soft diplomacy or the soft power. How important do you think it is when the other country becomes more aware or more sensitive to another culture? The report said that even the President was a little surprised when he saw the Czech band play this. But how much do these sensitivities and these small gestures add to any bilateral relationship?
They do, and that is something I should say, because Bollywood's appeal is now so universal, you would know, but it is surprising each time one goes to different regions in the world where you would least expect to see people humming these songs or talking about any of the Bollywood personalities that they feel that they can very well relate to, and that they feel this kind of a soft cultural exchange. It's something that they understand and that they empathize with. But that's not something which has happened only now. And it happened in the past between very friendly countries. So this was always, and that, as I said earlier, that always tends to foster friendship and a better understanding at the level of people-to-people exchanges. So that is extremely important, that it gives a broader base to your good political relations, to your good, strong, growing economic relations, but that fills a very important role in bringing kind of a cultural understanding or bringing a kind of an emotional at the level of friendship between people. It does play a very, and that was really actually quite a special gesture, I must say.
Ambassador Sabharwal, we also saw reports that India was also looking at greater cooperation with the Czech Republic and Bulgaria in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. And that's a topic we touch upon many a times because India is also now member of many groups like the Australia group, and we are trying to get into the nuclear suppliers group. How important do you think it is for India to be on the same page as Central European countries when it comes to the peaceful uses of nuclear energy? How important do you think it is for us to be on the same page, and do you think that ultimately this might somewhere help India to get into the NSG?
It will be good, and we are keen that these countries should understand our case and then support our candidature to the nuclear suppliers group, which is held up because of the difficulties or the objection by some very sitting members and some very major powers. These countries, it's useful to have an exchange of views, to be able to explain our point of view, and to be able to mobilize their support for our candidature, especially for those who are members of this group, I think, so that they could speak in advocacy of our candidature. Otherwise, of course, in terms of capabilities and in terms of the advances in this field, I am not so sure that we will actually have many concrete aspects on ground level cooperation, because this is a capability only very few countries have. But it is more, I should think, the political understanding of our case, of our argument, and the confidence that they have in India that we are never going to abuse our membership of the group. We are never going to compromise, and track record is just so clear, I think, on our commitments, that a friendly voice, or whether within the EU Council, because they're all three in the EU. In fact, Bulgaria is a member country which has joined the European Union the most recently. But the fact that they were leading it, and that these voices then carry weight. So at whichever high table that they are sitting, I think, within Europe, at the European Union, at the UN, I think that is where it will matter, that they get a first-hand understanding of our position, and hopefully we get their full support. And I think we have reason to feel that they were very supportive on many of these issues during the President's visit.
Ambassador Sabharwal, just looking forward, what is the few steps you would like India taking to further its relationship with Central Europe?
All our traditional friendship and our strong economic partnership, what we need to pay attention to, and which is why I think this was a very laudable and well-timed initiative that the President of India paid the state visit. We sometimes tend to, because of our preoccupation with so many other more pressing issues of foreign policy, of national security concerns, our multiple engagements both bilaterally and multilaterally, that we're not able, I think, to keep up, I think, with the kind of a calendar of very brisk exchange of visits. And that is important. I think that we need to not lose sight of that, as you rightly said, that in order now to sustain this momentum, when we are going to see some good outcomes, especially on the movement of the human resource personnel, especially in the Czech Republic, with Cyprus, we'd already had agreement to increase the numbers. So I think it will be important that political level dialogue is maintained and continued, and obviously they also understand that it cannot be at such a elevated level each time, but there are ways I think we can keep up the ministerial level exchanges. We can perhaps just institute a regular frequency to meet once in 2 years, or so on, whatever is practical for the two sides. That I should think is the most important thing, and then to be backed by an official level dialogue. See, these functional exchanges or functional mechanism, sometimes they look like they're just getting very routinized and there's too much of bureaucracy, but they help because you're able to just kind of do stock taking each time of the list of issues that are important, and the more you're in touch, the more you have to talk about, the more you can explain your difficulties and also explore new areas together. I should say that is the most important. The rest, of course, on economies and things and other partnerships, I think, where the strengths are, they will match, but you have to sometimes make more effort, I think. So it will come as part of this initiative that we sustain the dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to a discussion on overall analysis of President's visit to Cyprus, Bulgaria and the Czech Republic. The participants were Neelam D. Sabharwal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in.